Hello there and welcome to this new dashboard which is related to the Snapchat ads targeting. And as you know, it's a Tableau dashboard and it is one of the dashboard which has been posted on the Tableau public, where when I was surfing I figured it out from hundreds of different dashboards that I really like this one because it shows the information in sort of a question or a story like, are Snapchat ads targeting you? How are ads targeting you? When are they targeting you? Who is paying to target you? Should we be concerned? So this dashboard asks a lot of interesting questions from the data, which I also usually like. If you have seen my previous question and answer videos for practice, that these sort of visualization with question spark the idea or spark the conversation whether how it is really happening. And apart from this, another interesting thing is the commentary which is going on along with the charts. If you see with this chart, when are they targeting you? So the interesting part is what they're showing over here is the midterm election, and over here the label is not displayed, but what I'm probably assuming is the general election, because when I was decoding, this was a date for the general election. So it shows when the ad targeting is increasing. And then finally, very interesting information about who is paying you. So you can look at the number of countries which you can compare, like for example India, or you want to compare India with maybe China, or maybe over here I have United States and United Kingdom, and you can look at each individual bar. So over here this ad was paid by Department of Justice and I, who spent $10,000 and gained 9.9 million impression. So it shows a lot of useful information for those who really want to go inside it, or want to create a dashboard for this for the general public awareness, or maybe related to the data journalism and all. So I will show you how you can decode this dashboard, or how you can create this dashboard step by step, because a lot of interesting thing is going on. For example, how are ads targeting you? So you don't only get to know about the age, but when you hover over, you get to know about the respective age categories as well. But that's not it. You also get to know about segment. So generally for one particular chart it is fine, or say for example you have different age category and then you are showing the bar chart. It's pretty straightforward, but I'll show you how you can basically create all of these categories which are different, as you can see are coming over here. Similarly, you see that interesting tooltips which are coming over here, similarly over here and down there. And then finally, how you can put all of this information into one sort of a story like this, which looks like a one-pager report or two-pager report at the max, and give you a lot of insights about it. And finally, a slope chart like this. So if you are already not aware how to create a chart like this, which shows a clear increase or decrease, where decrease is being shown in the gray color, I will show you this. So if you want to create this video, I would require you to join my course, where not only this, there are various other dashboards which I have covered, and you can find the link within the description that how to join it, and then you can go ahead and start creating this dashboard. Alright, so let's move on to create the visualization. And the first visualization you see over here is basically this bar chart. So this is a very simple bar chart, but some formatting is being done. As you can see that the country information is not shown, and we will see very easily how to do that, all that formatting. So what I'll do is before I create this, let me just give you a glimpse of data so that you can have some idea with which data we are dealing with. So here is the data that we will going to use, and it has information about the ad ID, ad bracket, billing address, country information, the end date of the ad, gender, number of impression, and the language which is being coded, as you can see. And in most of the cases the information is missing, and then the location, basically the type of location, college or university, airport, where the impression was shown, what was the operating system, right, and the organization, paying advertising organization, region, segment, when the advertisement was started, and then information about targeting the geopostal code and all. So this is a straightforward data set which we have, and let's import it within Tableau and start creating the charts. So here I am in Tableau in a blank sheet, as you can see, where you can come either to the sheet 1, connect to the data, or you can be at the start page itself and start connecting the data. Alright, so what I need is basically a Microsoft Excel file, and the file which I'm looking for is the Snapchat ads. So over here you have the Snapchat's ad information, and very same data set which you showed it over, you have seen it over there, and we will going to use this particular one to start creating the dashboard. So let's move on to the sheet 1, and the sheet 1, what we need is country-wise bar chart for the number of ads. So what do we have over here is basically the country. We can put it on the column, but over here the number of ads is something we need to create it based on the ad ID. So what we're going to create is a calculated field and name it number of ads, and here we will use the count function of ad ID. So we'll click OK, and we will put the ad ID over here. Sort this in descending order, where the highest value will be the first one. Now the bar chart has been created, but here is one catch. If you see, the information for some of the countries is completely gone, right? But if I show you the dashboard, which is this, the information is coming properly. That means something related to the scaling is done. So whenever you fall into a situation like this where the information is dropped out completely, there is pretty interesting property which you can change going into the edit axis, and over here you will click on the logarithmic scale and click on symmetric. Once you do that, you will see the information is coming in a proper way now, and even for those where the information was pretty much blank or completely gone out from the chart. So this way you can change the axis and basically make the categories appearing and more comparative as compared to the normal scale. Now a couple of settings that we can do is come to the country, and we can click on or uncheck this show header. Now the country information, as you can see, is gone, and over here you have the title. So you can go in edit axis, you can remove the title and come out, and you can keep this axis as it is, like you have it here in this dashboard, or you can basically hide it. I think if I talk about my personal preference, I will hide it and probably show the marks over here, which makes to me a more sense as compared to information which is from which somebody will have to do the comparison, because in that case your eyes or your end user's eyes will have to do a lot of work. But here one can clearly see that okay, this is 1667, that is 344, 293. So no comparison or no eye movement is needed. That means less exercise and more output from the visualization. So that's an improvement I just wanted to show you from that. Now what we can do is add a tooltip. Right now the tooltip is coming as country United States, and number of ads is 1667. Similarly for the rest of the countries, but we can make it better. So maybe what we can do is we have country information. So over here, using these tags, the country is dynamic, the aggregated number of ads is dynamic. What we can do is do something like this, where we can say the count of ad of the Snapchat ads in the dataset are from this country. Now this is much more explanatory for the user as compared to the previous one. So if I click OK, and now if I just come over here, aggregated number of ads. Okay, let me just improve the tooltip. So over here we have aggregated number of ads. I will just check it. Maybe it's the spelling mistake. Yeah, O over here is capital, and in that it was small. So click OK, and now we have the proper value. So 1667 of Snapchat ads are in the dataset are from United States. So this is much better one. So wherever you will go. So now since this tooltip is increased, it's a matter of choice whether we still want to show 1667 and rest of the values, because it's a repetitive. So probably we can just uncheck this and make our chart pretty straightforward. Now up to us that first of all we can hide the title or make it a relevant one. So for now I will just hide it, and this is a personal choice whether you need very thin horizontal lines, which is shown over here. So we can call it number of ads chart. After that we have a couple of KPIs that we need to create. So if I show you the dashboard, we have countries, we have spend, and we have impression. So let's create these three ones. So first one is, let's say, impression, and it is nothing but a very simple sum of impression. So what you got is 1725925. So it's like more than 1 billion impression that you have. And within the text you can go over here, select this, make it little bit increase like 12, make it Tableau bold, which I personally like. You can do it whatever you want, and we will make it blue. Click apply and OK. So up to us. I think we can make it like 14 so that it's clearly over there, and OK. And over here we have impression. We can format it the way we want. Control Z. Okay, I have just put the title or dragged it incorrectly, so let me keep it like this. Okay, so we have impression. Now what we can do is we have the countries, and we have the spend detail. So the next is country is very straightforward. As you can see, you have countries. So what we need is basically a distinct count of countries. So if I put countries over here, you will see that it is textual field, but if I change it to measure count distinct, you get it 29, right? This is what we need, the number of unique countries in the over there. So I'll just change it to countries. Sheet 3 was something not looking really nice. I can go in text again, change the formatting as per my needs. So 14, Tableau bold, and I will change this to blue. Click apply and OK. And what I can do is for the third one, which is spend information, I can just duplicate this so that I don't have to do that formatting and all. So if I duplicate this and I will say spend over here. So now what you can do is for the spend information, we can take the spend and replace it over here. So what we get is the spend information. Now if you see, we don't have to do the formatting, we have to just replace the field. Alright, now after that what I can do is I can simply format it to make it a currency, and over here currency custom, and with just no decimal places. There is a currency standard as well with 2 decimals, but I just don't want that. So 3.8 million is basically the currency spent that is done. So you can come over here, click on format, and you will have the formatted currency. Now we have the first part of the dashboard. If I show you, So we have created this, the first part of the dashboard, where we have countries information, the spend information, and the impression information along with the chart. Now let's see how are ads targeting you. So what we will going to create is the donut chart, right? And for each donut we will going to create the tooltip like this, which is a custom tooltip, and we will see how to create it for different donuts. For this we need to create, or we need to get one more data set, which is the whole data. Here for the donuts, specifically for donuts, the measure names information is blended, which we can use it for the creation of donuts. So I'm creating a sheet over here, calling it donut, and you will see for this data set a lot of different fields which are present, even some of the calculation. But not to worry, if needed, we will going to recreate these calculation as part of the visualization. Alright, so the first thing is to create the pie chart for the creation of donuts. So the measure names are basically present over here in the pivot field name. So as I said, it is something pre-massaged information which is present or which has been created. So over here I will just make it entire view. So we have age, gender, interest, language, other, and segment as part of the donut name. Now we need a small trick where we want to create a placeholder field called min of 1 for this particular providing the value to which these particular names. Now we will put we will change this to pi over here, so it's now presented as a circle, and over here we will going to put the measure values over here on the angle. So we don't need everything over here, but what we need is basically, if I remove this, we just need the calculation one and percent of total, and I'll show you how to recreate that. Alright, sum of spend, I'll just remove that. I'll remove this as well. And now to create or show the slice, we just pull the measure name and put it over here. Now you will see the measure is coming properly over here. Now the important part is what's really going on with the percent of total and calculation one, which is pre-calculated. Now I will just show you how you can create this calculation for your particular chart when you are trying to create, so that you don't have to depend on the pre-calculated field. So the overall concept for this is that whether there is a null value present within the field names or not, based on how many times they are part of this all the advertisement program. So by each ad ID, by each unique ad ID, all of these field names are present. So wherever they are not present, we will not count that, but wherever they are present, that means in that field the value is present. So we want to count, and we want to finally take the percent of total so that we can create this slice. So for that, first I will create one field and give it a name as we can give it whatever name you want, because what we are really trying to do over here is finding whether the pivot field values are present or not. So PV values, we will not going to use it because what we are going to use is percent of total, but that's a base calculation we need to create. So if not is null pivot field names, then 1, else 0, and then finally end. So what it is basically saying that if the pivot field values, not names, sorry, values, if pivot field value is not null, right? Not is null, that means pivot field value is not null, then count as 1, otherwise 0. So you will get to know that out of 100 times, if age is present 70 times, then the percent of total will going to give you the 70%, and that's what it is happening over here. So if I just click OK, so think like this is basically the 70% part and this is the 30% part what we are trying to create with the help of these calculation which we are recreating. So we have PV values. We can probably give it more meaningful name, PV not null, right? Not null values. Click OK. And now create a percent of total calculated field. So let me just put it over here, PCT of total. Since this field is already present, was created earlier and part of the data set, so I'm just giving a different name, and that is nothing but sum of PV not null values, that means the values which are not null, divided by total number of records. So if total numbers of records are 100 and what you are getting in this calculation is 70, so you will going to get 70%, and so on and so forth for the rest of the one. Now we have percent of total. What we really need one more calculated field, because you have got 70% but you still need to calculate the 30%, right? So we will going to create a calculated field and we'll call it remainder of pi, and we'll call it 1 minus percent of total, because if it is this is 70%, 1 is full and that means 100%. So 100% minus 70% is what you will get is 30%. So click OK. So now if I change calculation 1 to remainder of pi over here and percent of total to PCT of total, you will get the same stuff. So that's basically what is right now going on. Now let's move on. What we will going to do is duplicate this for creating of donut. Okay. Now once we created a duplicate, we have the flexibility where we can basically choose a different parameters and values from here. So first of all, we don't need measure values because we don't need pi over here. We can have the we need to have the text over here. So first of all, changing the color, we will color it white. I will just double click on here, click white, click OK, and you will get to know in a minute why I'm doing this. And I will after that will put the percent of total over here on the label. So we get it like this. We can format it as percentage. Okay, and after that we'll just come over here on the size and reduce the size as well. We actually don't need measure names, we actually don't need this as well. I will just make sure the color is white. Okay, and it is a circle. Got it? So now if I come over here and make it a dual axis, so now you see a sort of a pie which has been created. Now if I just increase the size little bit, you will get the same pie chart. The only thing which I need to do is over here in the label, in the alignment, I need to keep it center aligned like this, right? Finally, either I can come over here, I will increase first of all its size little bit, whatever I need, and on the second minimum calculation, which is this, I will increase this size as well so that you can clearly see the donut. Okay, so we have the donut chart like this. Now formatting can be done whatever we want, probably just to go with what is really happening. So for blue, for blue, what we need is basically gray. If I compare it with the dashboard, so if I black, and maybe this gray is fine. And for percent of total, what we need is basically blue. So if I just get this, or maybe what I can do is I'll just click over here and click this, and it will be blue. So now it's very similar to what we have seen. One final touch which I can probably give is label. Make it bold, which I personally like, and make it a little bit large, 10%. So now they are giving you the impact. One last thing is right clicking over here and synchronizing the axis, then right clicking and removing the header. Removing the header from here as well. And one last thing which is not coming over here is basically the different names of the calculation. It is coming down here but not over here that we have within the dashboard. So very simple. I'll just come over here and see the names information and put it on label. It is coming down here, but you can put it at the top like it is present in the dashboard by clicking over here. Alright, and then we'll just make it again to be consistent bold, 12, and yeah, that should be it. So age, gender, interest. So now we don't need this as well. So right click, show header. You have your donut chart created that is part of your dashboard. So one more thing is the order, where we want to show, let's say, the order that after 91.12% we want to show the next highest category, which is segment, and after that next highest category is language, then interest, then gender, and finally other. So how to do that is basically applying the custom sort. So to do that, you need to come over here in the sort and sort order. You need to change it to manual and say segment should be the second. After segment, you should have the language. So click on language and upgrade it. So we have language. After that, you should have interest. So upgrade interest, gender. So now we are good. So it looks like a proper order when somebody will see this information. Okay. Now the interesting thing is basically the tooltip for each of these segments, right? Which is different than, or basically an interesting feature which I will show you. So let's create first the different sheets with their respective tooltip. So first is age. So I'll just click on age. And for age, what we need is basically in the Snapchat ads, we have something called as age bracket. So if I take the age bracket over here on the rows and then take the number of records as to show the based on the age how the targeting is happening, and what I don't need is the null values. So what we can do is we can have the age bracket over here, but if I remove the null and click on the top over here, sum of, let's say, top 5, and if I click apply, what I get is the number of top 5 records. Alright, so that's one thing, or that's the first tooltip that we need to create. We're clearly indicating the top 5 categories. After that, we have the segment. So I'll just, oops, not dashboard, but if I create the segments, and within the segments, let's create the segment related information. Okay, so we should have something as segment, and we should have the number of records, which is again straightforward. We will put the segment over here, over here, and uncheck the null. All right. After that, what we have is, if I just look at the domain language, so we will call it language. Language. We will find the top language where the targeting is happening. Now, to have the language, we will use, or we need to use a different data set where the better language related information is present. And we will see some interesting tips and tricks related to the language over here. So if I come over here in data source, new data source, Microsoft Excel, and the information is, if I am not wrong, actually, you know what, it's already present in Snapchat if I recall it now correctly. So Snapchat ads, we should have language. Yeah, over here we have the language. What is problem with the language is that as I was trying to recollect is that this information is translated, but what I'll show you, instead of creating a different sheet altogether, how you can translate it over here. Now to do that, you need a little bit of subject matter expertise. First of all, knowing the language name, which you can do it with the help of the Google, but then you need to find a principle that what do you need to do in cases like DE and DEEN, which is, I believe, is Denmark and English, right? Or ENDE. So these three, what I figure it out looking at the data, need to be combined one into the main language as Denmark, because there may be people in Denmark which the primary language is their native language, but secondary is English. Or maybe in some cases the primary language is English and the second is the Denmark language, the country language. So how to do that? Well, pretty interesting. What you have is come over here on the language, create group. All right. So AR and AREN, if you see, what we'll do is create a group and we will call it Arabic, right? So this is now grouped into one. So in the front end, what we will going to see is the Arabic language, and this is pretty much everything we need to do with the rest of the one. So over here, the DA, which is nothing but the Danish language, is the single one, but if you see DE, DEEN and ENDE need to be grouped into the what you call is the German language. What I figured it out, probably not the Denmark, I was wrong about that, but the German language, or maybe Denmark. So what I'm primarily showing you is how to group this. Now EN and ENES, which is Spanish, so ENES and EN and ESEN is what I will group it into Spanish. All right. After that, if you see, NB and NBEN is nothing but Norwegian. So Norwegian language, so we'll call it, oops, where are you? NORWEIGAN, Norwegian. And then you have NL and NLEN, which, if I'm not wrong, is, oops, where are you? DUT, Dutch language. So now we have got with only the single groups, which is DA, Danish, FI, which is Finnish, FR is France, and SV is Swedish. All right. So let's click apply and let me show you what you can do with this. So first of all, I will remove this. I will put the language groups at the rows over here. So language groups. All right. And maybe we can right click and exclude this. And then the number of records, pretty straightforward based on the targeting which is happening. So if I just sort it, so EN, So now what I'll do is, to make it correct, I will right click and click on edit alias and call it English. English. FR is nothing but the French. So these are some of the things we need to take care when we are working with this. So DA is Danish, Swedish, and Finnish language. Alright, so now our information is way much better, which was based on the earlier chart, which was a coded language. So now we have the language, the tooltip for language as well. And if I look at the donut language, then we have interest. Okay, so let's call it interest. And for this Snapchat ads, we have something called as interests, based on the interest now and the number of records. So if I take this and create a chart like this, where the first one, if I'm suspecting, is basically the null. So what I'll do is right click over here and exclude. So now the information is coming way much better. It may be the case that you may want to further split this information, advocates and activists / political news watchers. Now, very much related to our personal interest, what we want to do with this information. As you can see, advocate and activist, and then advocate, activist, political news watchers, things like that. So this has come under the data massaging, about how we want to basically view the information and group the information together. So I'm leaving this to you, how you want to show it, but the main objective is how we can view this visualization, which is part of the donut whenever we hover over to donut and create this visualization on top of that. Okay, after that interest, we have gender. So let's create a gender sheet. We have the gender information over here, and we have the number of records. All right, and it should be a simple chart like this, and we don't need null, and we will going to exclude. So clearly the information what we got is female is being targeted a lot as compared to the male counterpart. So pretty interesting observations which comes out of this chart, but filterable, or based on how we are specifying in the front end. In certain cases or in certain countries, it may be a scenario that they are targeting more male than female, because it may be a male oriented society. All right, so after we have gender, in the donut we have others. So let's call it something called as others over here. Now this is also very subjective thing, that what do you want to consider in others. Like we have gender, interest, language, segments, age, and that's why this information is stored in the different sheets. So I'll just click on over here in the Microsoft Excel, and I will just get this sheet as part of the dashboard, so that we can look at the other categories over here. So if I just move on to the others, over here I will have something called as pivot field values, where the information or the category names being grouped related to the other, again based on the subject matter expertise. So pivot field values, and then the number of records. What I'll do is click over here. You will see a lot of values, so I'll right click and first of all exclude the null, rank it, right? And what do we need is, let's say, the top 5 or top 10. So if I'll just come over here, field, maybe top 10, click OK, click OK. So these are the categories. Other than these categories, where like Spanish speaker, marital status, education, moms, and all of those detailed category information is present. But like I said, it's very subjective thing. You can have your own definition of others, but the main idea is we are looking at how to display this information on the donut over here. So let's move ahead and create this visualization. So to create this visualization, we basically need is something called as the calculated field, which we will call it as dynamic tooltip. All right, let me just drag it right here, and dynamic tooltip. And dynamic tooltip is something like based on the categories of this age field name. So this is nothing but the pivot table field name. So if pivot table field name is equals to age, then now here is an interesting part. In the single quotation, you need to give a tag, which is a sheet tag. So sheet, we will call it name equals to age. All right, we need to provide the max width equals to let's say we want 500, space max height is equals to 500, let's say, close it, and then based on what filter is being applied should be applied over there. So filter equals to all fields. That means whatever fields it has, the filter will be applied accordingly. So this is something what you need to display the multiple sheets in this donut chart. So I will copy this, Control C, and we will say else if, Control V. Now instead of age, what we are looking at segments. Sheet name equals to segments. All right, else if after segment we have language, language, language. Sheet name is also language. The only thing you need to make sure is you are not doing the spelling mistake. If you are doing that, then the sheet won't show. INTERES, interest, and keep the name as interest. All right, else if after interest you have gender, sheet name itself is gender, and finally else if you have something called as other, then sheet name is you can mention as others. Okay, so these are the other, and the sheet name is others. As you can see, I have extra s over here. Just keep that thing in mind. Based on segments, language, interests. So if the field name is interests, you see extra s, but in the sheet we have no extra s. So whatever the way you are creating it, just need to specify that. Now so let's just close this and let me show you what it happens, and then I will help you understand how you can further advance it. So now you have this information where all of the tooltip information you have stored it over there. So what I can do is I can put the dynamic tooltip over here on the tooltip, and come over here in the tooltip, over here. I need to remove everything and just keep the dynamic tooltip. Okay, so I remove this. From here I remove this, I remove this and this and this, and click OK. So all right, still I see an issue. Maybe the thing is we have sheet. So here on this pie the sheet is coming, but let me just drag it over here as well, the dynamic tooltip for the second pill, which is this coming in the tooltip. We don't need this, don't need this, don't need this, and just click OK. So now if you see, what we are getting is basically the sheet name, though the information is not coming. So let's try to fix that, what is really happening over here. But if you see, if you hover over to the pie or inside the pie, you will get the relevant sheet name. That's why we have put it both on the pill, which is min 1, or in this field, which is min 2, at both the places. So to solve this, we again need to come over here and just inspect this, that pivot field name is H, and you have single quotation, sheet over here, all fields. Okay, so what I see is, in case of an all fields, I have not closed the tag over here. Similarly, since it's been copy and paste, it's not pasted anywhere. So just be aware, whenever we are closing and opening, this type of issue may happen. So I hope it should work fine now. Alright, still I see the field, all fields. So let's just try to check. Oops, not duplicate, delete, and come over here in edit. So all fields, and then close this. Looks fine. So let me see wherever or at the other place the issue is. Okay, so based on the documentation, we don't need to have, or we should not have, these spaces. So let me quickly remove spaces, and you can just fast forward this, because what I'm doing is nothing but removing the spaces from here step by step. Alright, I just paused the video and just remove all the spaces, so you don't have to wait for me up until there. So let me click OK, and now this should come properly. So this is basically a very strong syntax inside it, and as you could see, I ran into the problem, and similarly, if you are not following it, you will run into the problem. But now all my tooltips are coming interesting. The important point here is only the dynamic tooltip, which is based on the multiple sheets. So this way we can show the visualization or the information as per our needs. Alright, so apart from this, if let's say you need to add some text in these segments, like for example something like segments includes advertiser specific data used, or maybe up until here, advertiser specific data, and click apply and OK. So now you will see that it come as a title like segment includes advertiser specific data, but over here there is nothing which is coming. So you can add some more information, the relevant title information or description information for your chart by coming over here in the dynamic tooltip and then adding it over here like this before the tag, or maybe after the tag if that's what you need. Click OK, and now let's move on to create the next visualization. So after these donuts, the next visualization is when are they targeting you. That means prior to election or an important event. So identifying the important event is the important information here, like midterm election, which indicates prior to that or after that what sort of activity that is happening via these ads. So let's create this. So here I have created a new sheet, time-based targeting, But to show this information, we have the data which is stored in the another sheet, and we will create a new data set or get the new data set, which is sheet 1 over time. That means it's a time specific information which is being stored over here. Alright, so let's move on and come over here. So this is sheet 1 over time data, and for this what we need is basically the information is stored over here, the pivot table values over here, and what we need is basically the week number. Okay, so week pivot field values, as you can see now the weekly information is here, and for showing the time information in a line chart, what do we need is basically a calculated field. So just to drag it over here, and we call it start date targeting, which is actually based on the start date. So this pivot field name, so it has a start date and end date. If you will look at this, so just to give you a glimpse of it, over here right click, view data, it will show quickly, and if I just move here, so pivot field values is this, so that's where we have taken the date values. The name is over here, which has start date and end date. So where we are more interested in taking the start date, so create calculated field, st start date targeting. So if we have the pivot field name as start date, then count it, otherwise negative it, because we will going to take the running total, so it will nullify the operation whenever the end date is occurring. So click apply and OK, and now we will put this over here, and what we will going to take is the quick table calculation running total. Alright, so now we have the information for all or every information in just one single line chart. But what do we want is, we want to bifurcate it by the different election types that happened. So over here we have the election information. So I will just take it on the details. So what do we want is basically just the attribute to show it this information differently, and I will make it a continuous one, and then election date 2018, again I will make it an attribute just to view every information, and I'll make it a continuous. Alright, and finally the election type in 2019 CF, which will be helpful in further bifurcating the information. So this information is now pretty clear, that when was the election date, election happened, and the information about the election type, whether it's a midterm or what. So it's basically the off year election information or midterm. So what we can do is, as part of the main visualization, if I just show you, what you have is basically the midterm election and the general election line. So to put it over here on this line, what you need is basically a reference line. Okay, and you will put it on week, and this will be based on the election date 2018, and we will call it maximum, and we don't want to show anything So as you can see, the label is disappeared. Earlier it was something showing you the computation or something like this, but we don't want anything. And for the tooltip, we want user to show you that it is midterm election. So click OK. Now you have this line. Similarly, you will create another reference line over here for the week dimension, and this will be the based on the maximum this actual election, which we will call it. So first of all, we don't want to show anything over here, but we want to put a custom tooltip and say general election. And if you want to format the line, you can format it like a different color, the size of the line, all of that you can put it. So now I can clearly see that before the general election there is a big spike into the data. Similarly, before the midterm election there is a big spike over here. That means the as you can see, the trend is really increasing, and just before the general election there is a huge uptick, but as you are reaching, there is a downfall into the advertisement, and then finally it's becoming almost negligible. So now this chart is also ready. Let's create another one. So the next chart is based on who is paying, and this information is present over here where we have impression. So what we'll take is the sum of impression by the country. So what we will do is based on the country information and ad ID information, we will try to see who is really giving or putting the advertisement. So over here, if I just take country over here along with the ad ID, so that we have individual ad ID, and then what we can do is we can make it, we can just remove it, show header, and it's removed. Now we want this information to be color coded by the spend. So let's take the spend on color. Okay, and after that we want the top 5 information or the top 5 spender. So what we can do is we can create a calculated field, and this calculated field is basically the impression rank over here. So we are trying to identify the rank of the impressions, sum of impressions. All right, click OK, and now we can put this impression rank over here, and we will call it 5. Click apply and click OK. Now what you are getting is basically information about the top 5 that is based on the various different countries. Like over here you have Canada. So what we can take is basically specific to the country. So we'll put country over here, or maybe what I can do is right click, show filter, and now I can just choose, let's say, United States. So remove everything and choose United States over here. Sort it so that we have the clear indication. So now in this ad there is a lot of spend, but the impression is comparatively less. So after that, what is interesting is to know who is basically paying for this advertisement. So we have the paying advertisement field, and let's put it on label. So as we put it on the label, like you are seeing it over here, there is a lot of there is a spike into the number of bars, and we will just try to reduce it again to the 5. And to do that, we need to just change the property of paying advertisement from dimension to attribute. So this is a quick trick whenever you are running into an issue like this, and I'll just expand it so that you will see the information about this. So whenever you are in, just change it from dimension to attribute, and what you will see is basically the expected output. Now we have this information where we wanted who is basically paying, but if you see our dashboard, which I will try to bring it for you from my different screen, is here. So what do you have is basically this bar. So one, it's basically in opposite direction, and then you have these filters, which is part of the dashboard, which we can view it later. So let me just keep it in a different, and let me duplicate this. We'll call it bar 1, let's say, and right click and duplicate this to bar 2. And what do we own? The only thing we need to do is basically, if I right click over here, right click, edit axis and reverse. Okay, so you have one bar which is in the negative or the left direction, one bar which is in the positive or in the right direction. So like I showed you, we have two bars, and the final visualization over here, if I show you correctly, the slope bar chart. So let's create that. So to create a slope bar chart, we will have slope, put it as slope, and then we will start creating it based on the time dimension. Okay, so what do we need is basically the year of ad from the Snapchat. So let me see where we are having this year. Nope. Okay, so this is based on the start date of the advertisement. So let's put the start date over here, and we need the span information, so from 2018 to 2019, but we want to see this information by country, so I will drag the countries. Now again, if you remember from my very first chart, the lot of information is coming down there and not making a lot of sense. So what I'm going to do is right click, edit axis, and again I will choose the log axis with the positive span. So I'll just close this and I'll expand this a little bit if it will allow me. Okay, all right, little bit more maybe. Yeah, so now looks fine. What we need is maybe right click over here, and we don't need header right now, and right click, if I just try to format these lines, we don't need basically a lot of these lines, so we can just remove these lines, drop lines and all. So for now that's okay, I mean we can live with this. Hide indicator. Now what do we need is, so we have 2018 and 2019. It's just that to make it more clear visualization, what we need is basically the reference line. So if I just show you how this really looks like over here, and what we are trying to recreate is basically a proper line. But if we see, we don't have the proper line over there, over here, if you see. So again, to create reference line, we will go over here and we will create a reference line. All right, so this reference line need to be part of the based on the year. So I'll just undo this, and to get that line, what I just need is convert it into the continuous. Okay, so as you can see, it has increased a lot. Let me just try to reduce that. Okay, all right. So now if I just come over here and change this to this, so here minimum, we have computation as, or what do we want is basically 2018, 2018, sorry, 8 over here, because now we will have to remove these labels as we are getting 2020 and 2017 as well. Okay, so click OK, and I will add one more reference line to here, and this will be based on maximum, and we will put the custom label as 2019 and click OK. Or you can actually use the value as well, which is dynamic. So instead of 2019, you can choose value, whatever that value is, it will show you. Now you can right click and say uncheck show header, and you have this beautiful visualization. The only thing which I feel is basically these particular horizontal lines that is coming on the chart. Maybe it's not displayed to you because they are very light, but how to remove them is something by coming over here and going into the formatting. So the thing which you need to do is come over here in the rows and make the grid lines to none. So if you enable this, you will get the lines. If you don't see the lines over here, but if you check none, the lines will be moved. Now another thing which is happening is the value is starting from 0, as you can see, and going up to like first spend is 102. So how we can make it little bit proper so that these values are shifted down below. So let me come over here and click on the show header, right click, edit access, right click, edit access, uncheck 0, and now this is again dynamic. So now I will just right click and click on show header. It's removed. Very much up till what we have got, but finally one more thing which I will do is based from that dashboard itself, and that's what it makes it a lot of interactive, is putting these lines where the information has gone down as gray and keeping the rest of the line as blue. That means wherever the spend from last year to this year is higher than 1, otherwise 0. So for that we need to create a calculated field, and to do that we will go into the calculated field, and within this what do we need is basically spend up, just to indicate whether the spend has gone up or not. And we will going to make it a dynamic, because every year if you will have to change this, you will have to come here, using probably the LOD, you will fix the 2018 and 2019 and do the comparison. But let's try to make it dynamic using the lookup function to first see the latest year information of spend, so sum of spend, and then we will use the function last to get the latest, and then for the previous one we will use the lookup sum of spend, and then we will use first. So this will automate this. Now it's showing me some error, so over here I have to first close this, and this is closed here, this is closed here. So now it's okay. Click OK, right? So what we are saying is whether our spend have gone up or not. And to better understand, if this is something where you are finding it confusing because probably you may have not used it earlier, just break this calculation. I mean, if you come over here, click edit, and if I show you this, just first use this, create a table, use this calculation as the first one. First have these fields, then use this calculation as one field and this calculation in next field, and you will get to know what it is doing is nothing but getting you the latest and previous information. Alright, so let's move on to create one more field, which is help us get the direction, whether it is going up or down. Okay, so if spend is up greater than 0, that means spend has gone up, then we will call it increased. Else if spend up is less than 0, then decreased and end. Alright, spend is greater than 0, then click OK. We'll put the direction on color, and now you will see you have null, increase and decrease. But so what we will do is we will put null as gray, decreased as gray, and increased as blue. Click apply and OK. So null is the case where you don't have the previous spend, or here just 1 year in 2018 the spend has happened, and over here you can clearly see this particular country, Denmark, where the spend has gone down. Well, congratulations, you have all the charts in this big series of tutorial. The only thing which is left is creating a dashboard. So let's try to complete that in few minutes. Okay, so creating a new dashboard, and in this new dashboard, but before that, what do we need is basically the icon of the Snapchat that we can use it for the interactivity. So to do that, what I can do is I can just say some whatever, it's just that a dummy information that I'm creating, and I'll go to shape, and over here I'll come into the more shape, and here I have Snapchat. Now wherever your Tableau is installed, look for the default directory. In that, within default you have shapes folder, and within that shape folder you can create one more folder which I have created with the name of the Snapchat, and here is the icon that I'm using, and I can click apply and click OK. I can right click and hide the title, and I can increase and decrease that based on this size which is there. Okay, so now the size is little bit increased, so I will just adjust it accordingly. But as you can see how easy it is to get the icon information. So I'll just reduce its size a little bit so that it is coming properly. Okay, I think this much is good. So I'll come into here in the dashboard, and let me give it a sheet name as icon. So what do we need is basically, first of all, the icon. Now there are two ways you can get these sheets over here. One is if you drag it directly, your sheet is getting or your sheet is taking the entire size, but I want it a floating option. So one of the option is I can come over here and click on floating, so that I can drag it wherever I want, so that I don't have to, or my sheet is not using this entire area. Or another way is I can hold down the shift key in my keyboard and drag this. This way, by default, you will get it the floating. You don't have to come here and then drag it, because sometimes it just changes the entire order so much that I find it really irritating. So hold down the shift key and then drag the sheet whenever you need a floating sheet like this. So I will just put the icon over here, remove the title by hiding it, and I will just squeeze it. Okay, so now it looks that something related to the Snapchat which is going on over here, and what do we need is basically the information about our various sheets. So the first sheet that we have is basically the bar sheet. So that is basically the number of ads, if I'm not wrong. Yep. So you have this sheet, and after that you have donut sheet. So I'll just bring it down there. You have donut sheet, and after donut sheet, I guess what we don't need is these measure names. Cancel. I don't need to delete the container, but this one, and then I don't need this as well. Or we can, let me try to do something else with this earlier. And next thing is the interest over time. So time based targeting is coming into the picture. So maybe what we can do is we can change from 800 to maybe 1500 and then drag the information up. So this way we will have a lot of space with which we can play around, and as you can see we can then drag more. So up until now, let's just work with this step by step. So we have number of ads. I'll just right click, Alright, I'll just try to select that, right click and hide the title. Okay, so now this is coming here, and this is basically the icon which is overlapping. So first of all, what we need is basically a text container over here. So this text container will say our Snapchat. So I'm not doing anything but creating that text which was present over there in that dashboard. Let's call it 16 bold and black. Click OK. Our Snapchats are targeting you, and I will just put it like this. And in that, what I'll just do, just so that this is coming properly, is create some space for this. Our Snapchat ads targeting you. Okay, makes sense. All right, now the information is properly there. After that, what I can do is simply copy and paste the text, because there is a lot of text. So two things which I can do is I can come down and paste this and click OK, and then over here this is the textual information that we had seen was present in the earlier chart. And now since we have the space, we will going to get some space for us. Next, we will going to drag the KPIs, which is the countries API. So I will hold down my shift key and drag it. So we have this countries KPI. Now if you see this information is not coming properly, so I can come over here and go to the sheet, and this I need to increase a little bit like this, and in the text I will centralize this. And for this countries information, we can double click over here. We can again align it center, bold it, and make it like complete black. So countries 29. Now if I come to my dashboard, as you can see, the information is coming properly. Okay. All right. So as whatever you need to do, you can do that. But you can see now, like we have seen there, we have countries information here as well. Similarly, we can do with the impression. So I will press my hold down my control key, sorry, the shift key, and then drag it over here. So now we have impression. You know, we can filter, we can sort it by double clicking it over here. Again, just I'll make it bold. Click OK. I can make it central as well, so that it is centralized a little bit. So we have impression, so we have countries, we have impression, and now let's get the spend information also over here. Just reduce it, double click over here, bold it, make it centralized, click OK, and now we have most of the information that we need as part of the KPIs. So now this looks good and similar to the KPI which was shown earlier, and we have the information about this, and there we get our information of our different tooltips that we created over there. And this was basically how our ads targeting you. I'm just copying that information or that question information, which you can do whenever you are creating a similar chart or the question that you are producing. So click apply and OK. So how ads are targeting you is something that you have created. I will just drag it a little bit so that there is some space. No, that's okay. Now time-based targeting. So this question was when they are targeting. When are they targeting you? When are they targeting you? Again, I will just bold this and make it like 20. Click apply and OK. So if you remember, if I just show you, there is a text over here. This is this. So I will just double click and copy this and move it over here. So now if I just put the text over here and paste here, click OK, you have this information about the text box, which you will see will align in few minutes once we have more charts. So the next chart that we want is who is paying to target you. So we have two bar charts. So we have bar 1, which I want to display at the end, right? And then so two things. We just need to make sure that we know the spend and this category. So first of all, I will make it floating, this filter, and I will make this filter as single value drop down so that it is not taking a lot of space. And I will put it here. Over here, because this bar will be shifted to the right. Similarly, the spend, I will need to first make it floating, and now I can put it over here. Okay, right click, hide title, and for this we can create a blank box. Okay, and for this we'll just drag it. I'm just showing you how you can do all of these things, which sometimes looks to you is really difficult, and how to do this. And now we have bar 2. Bar 2 should be here with the bar 1. So right click, hide the title. So now bar 1 and bar 2, we have country information, spend information. Again, we have got the we need to make it floating. We need to make it single value list, single value drop down, and then drag this up a little bit, and this is this. Okay, so country, this country over here is this, and you have spend for this country, and we need to get a spend for this country by coming over here, legend, color legend. It must have gone up over here. So again, click over here, floating, and then put it over here in the alignment. Little bit up. Little bit up. Okay. So now you have the spend for these two countries, which now you can compare. So from United States, you can compare the, let's say, United Kingdom. And then you have the range, and you have the information about who is spending more. The only thing which I can see from a different dashboard is the versus. So you can have, I will just hold down my shift and drag the text, and we will call it V. Make it 10 bold. Okay, and just put the V over here. So now this becomes like versus this country versus this country spend. And finally, what do we have is the slope, which I want to show it over here. And if I just drag it down a little bit here, ooh, it has changed a lot of things, as you can see. So sometimes this may happen to you, that information is being collapsing like this. So what you can do is put it like this, and for these two, what we can do is we can drag this down further down, drag this down, and now you can see we have the information here. So what I'll do is I will just remove this. This may happen, so, and it has happened here, so you can see we are just adjusting everything to make it correct. Good. Looks nice as we had done it earlier. We will just drag these values down here. So that's the only piece which sometimes frustrates because things moves. You can make it part of the container as well, which I forgot to show you, but you have containers like horizontal and vertical, and all of this will become a part of container. Maybe in a different video I will show you. Okay, but it's just that it gives me more flexibility whenever I'm putting it like this. All right, so we have this, we have this information. All right, a lot of fine, and the only thing which is probably making a little bit problematic is this. Okay, let me drag it a little bit this. All right, and then drag this up. Align it so that they show you the information side by side. Okay, looks fine. And then finally I will just add one more text box over here where we have this text, the text which you want to show, and click OK. Click OK. We can and the name of the chart is "Should we be concerned as the spending is increase?" Or we can double click, make it bold, and click OK. So now we have this information 2018 to 2019, the relevant text, the information of where it is spending, who are they targeting, and we have to just add one more, who is paying to target you, that information. So if I put it like over here, if we just make some space, and add the text box here and say who is paying to target you. Bold, make it 12, bold, or maybe just to align with others, make it 20. Click OK and OK. So now you have your interesting dashboard ready, which we saw it. The only thing which is again problematic is this text. So what we can do is we can drag this a little bit more. At the end of the day, it's all about dragging it up, down, so that this information is properly shown. Okay, fine. So now we have this dashboard which we saw at the start of the dashboard tutorial, where are these Snapchats are targeting you, how ads are targeting you, and their relevant tooltip. When are they targeting you? Who is paying to target you? Should we be concerned? So as you can see, this dashboard is, or this tutorial is so long. There are like a lot of tips and tricks which has been covered, but it gives you the idea how a story or how an investigative dashboard is being created. Now you can be more and more creative and can give more and more answers about who is basically paying or who is targeting you, when they are targeting you, to which segment they are targeting you. Create this dashboard and you can do your investigative journalism. And similarly, this concept can be taken to your company as well, where you can see based on the products, where the customers, what are the customers that you are targeting, when you are targeting, based on when you are targeting, whether they are being converted or not. For example, different types of medium like email marketing or print marketing, ad TV marketing. So all of those can come over here and show you the relevant detail. So it's a very standard and investigative dashboard, which you can call it even as a story. And this is something which I really like because of its the relevant information that it shows. So over here, if you see, some of the cleaning that we can do is something like going into the added access and then removing this. It's just that it bothers me. And then week of pivot field values, you can go into the added access and then again remove it from here itself and click OK. So this way, again, you can just divert it, but just wanted to make it more and more clean and show you basically how you can do this. So that's pretty much all which I have for you. Be creative, try to put your questions and try to answer it with the visualizations. Either we have covered it here or you have your own innovative visualization. But that's about it, and I'll meet you in the new video tutorial with a new dashboard.